Hello and welcome back to Claire Likes Yarn. In today's video, I just wanted to do a little recap of my first ever outdoor market. Up until this point, I have only done indoor markets. I've done it inside of a barn, and then I've done a lot of schools. So for their school fundraiser bazaars in the winter and now in the spring. But this was my first ever outdoor market. The event that I got to take part in was at 19 Acres. It is a cider company. The topics I want to go through today are location, the setup, my inventory, and my overall experience. First off, the location was at 19 Acres. They did have a small event and it was their makers market. They had 10 local small businesses for their vendors, and I got to be one of them. How I was invited was they had seen my table set up at one of the previous high schools for their spring bazaars, and they had reached out to me on Instagram. They had DM'd me and said, "Hey, are you available for this weekend? We're having a small makers market." And I was so excited to be invited someplace that I didn't have to reach out for. I feel like so many times reaching out to someone and hoping that there's a spot for you is part of the stress. And so it's very nice just to be invited to an event. The event was on a Saturday. It was the day before Mother's Day. It was from 1 to 6 p.m. I have never done an afternoon event before. All of them have always been from like 10 to 2 or 10 to 4. So it was really cool to see the afternoon side of market. They did not charge the vendors for a fee, which is a huge blessing. Partly, I think this is because they know their vendors are going to be eating and drinking there because they have food and a ton of fun beverages. And I did. Between my husband and I, we had 4 drinks and we ate some of their food. So I feel like that's one of the reasons why they didn't charge for a vendor, but I was still very generous of them. The setup is they provided one table for us, and originally they had all of the vendors in like a U shape, and it was very tight. It didn't feel as claustrophobic once everybody's canopies were up. It was such a happy atmosphere, and the weather was pretty decent. We had our canopy up, and so I didn't have the sun beating down on me all day. It never rained. It was a little windy. The weather was mostly cloudy, and we are in Oregon, and so chances are it's going to be cloudy, but it was not cold in any way. There was a nice breeze. Overall, I think it was a perfect Oregon day. As far as setup goes, the week of the market, my husband and I did a mock setup in my parents' driveway. We had our 2 tables and my folding pegboard, and we set up the canopy and we did our little trial run, and I was so thankful we did because I had no idea what I was doing. I had only ever done just a single table, and then our most recent events we added the trifold pegboard thing. And so for the first time I had a whole 10 by 10 space to work with. And so it was all about how do I maximize the space and make it welcoming and showcase all of my products in a very efficient manner. We switched around our setup so many different times, and so I was so thankful we did this ahead of time, so then when the day came, we knew exactly how everything was going to go. So like I said, 19 Acres provided one table for us, and so we had brought a smaller table to go along with it, so then it has an L shape to it. And then of course we had my folding pegboard for displaying the garlands. One of the challenges about the setup was the gravel. It was not even, and so the pegboard, to find this perfect spot for it to go is kind of challenging because it would tip one way or it tip the other way, or just would not stay open because the corners didn't match up on the ground. So I feel like that was one of the biggest challenges, was just the ground was uneven. And another thing was the wind. And when we were setting up, it had already fallen over from a gust of wind before the day even started. And so we had tied the canopy strings through the pegboard with these hooks. So then it wouldn't fall over. During the day, it still swung back and forth a little bit, but it did not fall over. And so I'm so thankful that we tied it to the canopy. Along with the tables and pegboard, we also have the plant stand, and the plant stand is a wonderful way to display the baskets. It just gives it height. I feel like people are more drawn to a table or booth if there's height and texture to the display. And then of course we also have just little baskets to hold some of the coasters. Another thing in my display was a 19-acre cider, because of course I have to showcase where I'm at to the clientele. Next up is inventory. So this is everything that I brought to the market to sell for that day. I brought 16 hexagon coasters, sets of 4. I brought 4 strawberry garlands, 7 wine carriers, 8 cider coozies, and 20 baskets. 2 medium short ones, 12 minis, 7 mediums. As far as the day went, the event started at 1 and it ended at 6. And then right around 1, when we first started, someone came and they bought 2 of my strawberry garlands right off the bat. The real peak of my sales was around 2 p.m. The lowest amount of sales I made was around 4 p.m. And I feel like that's when a lot of the people who came to the event started eating and snacking, and so there wasn't a lot of shopping. We had so many people browse during that time. They had their drinks in their hand and they were just looking at all the different vendors, and then they would go and sit down. And then right after they were done eating, around 5 o'clock, people started to come again and they started to buy more. Around 2/3 of my sales were with the card using Square, and then another third was used in cash. As far of my inventory, 2 hexagon coasters sold, all 7 of my wine carriers sold, 3 garlands, 1 of the medium short baskets, 1 medium basket, and 4 mini baskets sold. That brings us to a grand total of $307. My overall experience was a positive one. It was wonderful communication leading up to the event of what to expect, fees, time of the event, location, and what they provided, the table. If you're new to being a vendor at events, I recommend always setting up the mock setup the week of, just to see how your inventory looks laid out, how you like the feel of your space, and then be your own customer. You know how other people are going to be seeing you, because you're standing behind of the table. You don't see what they see. One of my favorite things that I did was business cards. It sounds silly. This is my first time having business cards at a market. So many people were like, oh, where can I reach you after this? I had sold out of all of my wine carriers, and I had multiple people ask, oh, you sold out, where can I order more? And so that is why business cards come in handy, because when you do sell out, they know how to reach out and order one from you. One of my favorite things that I did during this market was display how I would use the items. For the baskets, I put my wallet and keys in one of the small medium-sized baskets, and then I also put a plant in one of my mini baskets. What this did was it encouraged the customer to envision how they would use it. And it was so funny. I had someone who saw the remote and keys inside of the basket, and they're like, oh my goodness, I need that for my living room. We always misplace our keys and remote. I need to have it. I need to have a home for it. I was like, that's perfect. And same with the plant. I had to switch the plant to 3 different baskets, because the first 2 baskets that the plant was inside, they loved it. They're like, I want to put my plant inside of there. And same with the wine carriers, they sold. They saw the wine inside of the carrier and they're like, oh, that is perfect. That's a wonderful idea for a gift, to gift wine. It is. And I sold every single one of those. So I would encourage, display how you would use it. How do you want them to use it? But this was my first of many outdoor events. Thanks for watching, and please comment down below any of your tips and tricks for setting up for an outdoor event. Bye!